1 Thessalonians Chapter 4, Through the Bible. Part 7. C.S. Lewis, in his Screwtape Letters, uses a little sarcasm to ridicule the liberals who believe that the resurrection is a resurrection of the spirit and not of the body. He asks what position the soul or the spirit takes when it lies down in death, or what position the spirit takes when it stands up in resurrection. If you want to believe in soul sleep, you must explain how a soul can lie down and then stand up. Obviously, asleep refers to the body. The same Greek word for sleep is used here as is used when referring to a natural sleep when the body lies down in bed. Let me give you two illustrations of this. And when he rose up from prayer and was come to his disciples, he found them sleeping for sorrow. Luke 22, verse 45. Imagine that Peter, James, and John went to sleep at this time of crisis. The word is the same word that is used here in 1 Thessalonians. Again, in Acts 12, verse 6, and when Herod would have brought him forth, the same night Peter was sleeping between two soldiers, bound with two chains. And the keepers before the door kept the prison. One thing we know for sure about Simon Peter is that he didn't have insomnia. Even at times of great crisis, he was able to sleep. Again, the same word for sleep is used, and it is the natural sleep of the body. 3. The Bible teaches that the body returns to the dust from which it was created, but the spirit returns to God who gave it. Even the Old Testament teaches this. In Ecclesiastes 12, verse 7 we read, "Then shall the dust return to the earth as it was, and the spirit shall return unto God who gave it." The dust, that is our body. God told Adam, "For dust thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return." Genesis 3, verse 19. It was the body that was taken from the dust, and then God breathed into man the breath of life, or the spirit, you see. It is the body that will go to sleep until the resurrection, only the body. The spirit of a believer will return to God. The spirit or the soul does not die, and therefore the spirit or the soul is not raised. Only the body can lie down in death, and only the body can stand up in resurrection. This is quite obvious when Paul says that to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. 2 Corinthians 5, verse 8. The body is merely a frail tent that is laid aside temporarily in death. For we know that if our earthly house of this tabernacle were dissolved, we have a building of God, an house not made with hands, eternal in the heavens. 2 Corinthians 5, verse 1. The Greek word for tabernacle here is skinos, which means a tent. The bodies we live in are tents. I have news for you. You may live in a home that costs $250,000, but the place where you really live is in a little tent. God put every single one of us into a tent. It is not a matter of some living in a hovel and some in a mansion. We have all been given the same kind of tent. You could reduce the body to its component chemicals, and I am told the whole amount would sell for about $4, although inflated prices may push it a little higher. Every one of us lives in a tent that is worth about $4. It can be blown down at any moment. If you don't believe that, step in front of a car, and you will find that your tent will fold up and silently slip away. Our bodies are actually very frail. For in this we groan, earnestly desiring to be clothed upon with our house, which is from heaven. 2 Corinthians 5, verse 2. For we that are in this tabernacle do groan. 2 Corinthians 5, verse 4. We groan within our tents. Have you discovered that? I met an old man at the corner bus stop many years ago. He must have been pretty close to 80. He was swearing like a sailor. I said to him, "Brother, you won't be here very long, and you are going to have to answer to God." "How do you know I won't be here very long?" he asked. God is telling you so. He has put gray in your hair, a totter in your step, a stoop in your shoulder, and a shortness of breath when you walk. He is trying to tell you that you won't be here much longer. You are living in a little tent down here, and you are going to be slipping away soon. I am told that when President Adams was an old man, a friend inquired about his health. He answered that he was fine, but the house he lived in was getting rickety and was not in good repair. That is the kind of body each of us is living in, my friend. When I was a young man, I could bound up and down the steps to my study. Today it is different. I come down the steps one at a time, and there is no more bounding. My knees hurt, and I groan. My wife tells me I groan too much, but I tell her it is scriptural to groan. Paul said that we groan in these bodies. These old bodies are going to be put into the grave, and they're going to sleep. The spirit goes to be with the Lord. Paul wrote, "Therefore we are always confident, knowing that, whilst we are at home in the body, we are absent from the Lord. For we walk by faith, not by sight." 2 Corinthians 5 verses 6 and 7. Now we are at home in this body. This is where we live. People don't really get to see us, you know. We are hidden in our bodies. Sometimes people who come to rallies or services when I speak tell me they have heard me on the radio and they have come just to see how I look. I always feel like saying, "You really haven't seen me. All you have seen is a head and two hands sticking out of a suit of clothes. You don't see me. I live within this body. This house I live in isn't in such good repair, but that's where I will live as long as I walk on this earth."